Hey everyone, if you think the bank is going to help you build your business, you're absolutely wrong. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about the ABCs of bootstrapping. Before we get into it, welcome to the Rendina podcast, where my goal is to help you cut the learning curve on what it takes to build a successful service based business. My passion is small business, and I want to deliver value and also learn in the process. The purpose of this podcast is to help build communities that raise the standard of small businesses. I hope you're enjoying the content. And if you do, please like, share, and follow. We want to grow the show. We want to help as many people as we can start businesses. It's a struggle. So let's get together, team up, and we can get through it together. So before we dive into this, what is bootstrapping? I was looking this up and I'm like, where does that come from? Where does that term actually come from? And there's a couple definitions. One is literally you want to get oneself or something into or out of a situation using existing resources. And I was like, oh, that's a pretty good definition of what bootstrapping is, right? In essence, what you're doing is you're creating something from what you have rather than going and getting something external to build what you need. And I thought that was an interesting one. And then I was looking into the history of it. And it was a phrase used in the 18th and 19th century, what they said to pull oneself up by the bootstraps. And I think it was a literal phrase, like, right? Like put your bootstraps on and go. And like if somehow it caught on and now it's a thing. And it's an interesting thing. And I think anyone who's starting a small service-based business should be bootstrapping. I'll tell you right now, because it's the easiest way to do it. The bank ain't coming to save you. Try not to take your friends and family's money. Do it yourself. You 100% can, especially in the service-based business, because you can get income from somewhere else, which we will talk about, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about the principles of bootstrapping in this episode and the best way to do it and ways to make sure that you are still making money while you're bootstrapping or surviving. Let's say surviving or still surviving. So let me tell you a little bit about my story first. Iron Health, which is a physical therapy company, also a health company. We have training, acupuncture, massage, cryotherapy, and we're going to keep expanding that, right? When I first started this in 2016, I literally had nothing. I had a job that I was making over six figures. And I was like, you know what? I'm not happy. Fuck this. I'm going to go out on my own. Now, the first step to bootstrapping is you have to get over the fear of going to do it, because fear is going to be evident. It's present. There is no security. You are your own security. You have to understand that completely. Now, that's all mindset, and that's all that it takes to actually build a business. Is your mindset has to be rock solid, right? You have to get over fear, and you just have to take a leap, and you just have to do it. As I've said before, and you know, there is a quote. It's like, you're going to go across a river in a boat. Once you get to the other side, you're going to burn that boat. So there's no way back. This is 100% true when you want to go down this path. It doesn't mean that if you don't succeed in what you want to do, you can't go find another job, because that's there. But in your mind, you have to say, I'm going to succeed. You have to be fully all in, period. That's the first key to bootstrapping. Now, for me, what I did was, luckily I'm a PT, right? So my service can be carried over anywhere. I worked in an old age home, which is people who are above 65. A lot of them are not mobile. You know, they need help, they need assistance. So I needed to kind of go to their rooms, help them get up, make sure they're walking, making sure they're staying healthy. It's a noble job because those people actually need it, but it wasn't something I wanted to do. Now, I remember at one point I was working this job per diem, which means per hour. I was trying to make ends meet, as I was saying, looking for a space to actually start Iron Health. I didn't know the basics of how to run a business. I didn't know how to get a lease, negotiate a lease, how to make sure I got equipment, how to do billing, because I'm in the medical industry. So that was all new to me. I was learning the process as I went, right? Now, I remember specifically one incident. I went into a bank and I was like, hey, I'm trying to start a business. And I talked to the teller. And it's funny because it's like, I always say this, it's like the medical field when you go into a doctor's office. The first barrier is the front desk. They are the first bodyguards. They won't let you talk to the MDs. And we still have that in the PT world, but it's the same thing with a bank. The tellers are your first barriers. Like behind that glass door is where the people who have the money are, and they'll give you that money, but you have to be a part of the club. So I went to the bank and I was like, hey, I'm trying to start a business. Like, what's the process look like? How do I open a bank account? How do I get a loan. And literally the teller was like, yeah, we can't give you a loan. The teller said this to me. He's like, you have no history, you have no business. Like, we just don't give money like that away. And I was like, you fucking kidding me? This is the way it works. Like, this is the process. So that even facilitated me more, saying I have to bootstrap, because now no one's going to come and give me money regardless of the situation. And nor, I'm glad it worked out that way, because truthfully, if you're in the service-based business, you're better off going that way. You don't want to owe someone money right off the bat. So after that situation, I was like, all right, I'm going to figure this out on my own. I worked in an old age home. And then the second step was I found a gym where I rented a corner of the gym, and I put a table, and I said, hey, this is going to be my PT facility. I'm going to treat people on this table. We're going to use the gym equipment, and we're going to do what I got to do to survive. And from there, luckily, I started to gain traction. People started to come to me. I started to get known, and my company started to grow. Now, after that situation where I was in the gym, I was like, okay, you know what? I think it's time to take the next leap into my own facility. One key lesson I learned there, and we'll talk about it more, but one key lesson is like your bank account for your business, if it's growing, first of all, never take that money. And then second of all, if it's growing, that's when you can decide to take the leap. If you're remaining the same or it's getting lower, don't go into your own facility yet. Like, that's a key little point, and it could take you over the edge for that. So that's my story. We eventually were able to get enough money to find up my own space. I built out the space to what we needed, and I was there for 5 years, and now we have 4 clinics. So we scaled from that ability using that same model, using our same revenue. Now, truthfully, banks come to me and they try to ask, they want to give me money. That's the transition. That's the leverage point you want to be in. But first, you got to bootstrap. You got to prove it. You got to prove it to yourself. You got to prove it to others. So a couple keys to bootstrapping. Again, service-based business is awesome because you can work anywhere. If you're a massage therapist, you could do per diem somewhere. If you're a PT, you could do PT somewhere. If you're a chiropractor, you do that somewhere else. So having supplemental income is key. You can work odd jobs. You can go to an old age home. Like know where you can make a guaranteed money and know how much money you have to make to survive, right? The business is separate. You're growing that separately. It's almost like a side hustle that you want to convert into a full-time thing. So work per hour. Know your numbers. Again, say, hey, on a monthly basis, I need X to survive. Can you go make that somewhere that you know you're going to get guaranteed that money? If you can, that's it. You're golden. Everything else will come and flow. Find somewhere not in the same type of like business as you to work your per diem hours. So there is no conflict of interest. Make sure that you're doing that as well. But that's key. Like any service-based person can work anywhere. It's a very in-demand thing, especially if we're talking about, again, PT, massage, chiro, anything like that. You can always find work. So that's key. The second part of bootstrapping is find an adjunct service. What do I mean by that? And I'll use my story again, right? I was a PT and I went into a gym and I rented space in a gym. It's an adjunct service, right? I'm going to get clients from that gym regardless of the situation just because I'm there. They start to know me. They start to see me. If that gym already has people, it's an easy sell for you. So go into a place where you already know is adjunct to what you offer. If you're a massage therapist, same thing. You can go to a gym. You can go to a chiropractor's office. Anywhere where you know the barrier for you to get clients is going to be easier is key. Now, one thing to know when you are looking for your own space and bootstrapping is you want to start at the lowest common denominator. What do I mean by that? In a negotiation terms of the space you want to get, try to negotiate a per client transaction where you pay that landlord per client. Maybe you go weekly, you pay them weekly, or you pay them monthly. And don't lock yourself into a lease. That is key. So that negotiation process early on is very important because you're not going to have that much expendable income to give away. So you need to make sure you're holding everything tight to your chest. I always say start with the per client model. And then once you're starting to flow, you can say, all right, now I want to pay you monthly. That's an easy transition. So go into an adjunct place like a gym or a chiropractor or et cetera, where you know you're going to gain those clients and negotiate your rent and make sure it's suitable for what you want. And you can build your base off that. I would say another step to bootstrapping Start with the least amount of equipment possible. I know a lot of people go into these big facilities and they're like, I need at least 100,000, 200,000 to make this facility beautiful. You don't need that. People aren't going to buy your equipment. They're buying you. That's the priority in anything. You have to sell yourself before your equipment actually sells people. So go in and say, I'm going to spend 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 on my basics. And usually in service-based business, unless it's like a dentist office, our overhead is very low. So that's very, very valuable to have that option. Also, can you be in a place that you can borrow their equipment? Let's say you're in a gym. Can you use the gym's equipment? If you can, that's golden. Now you're leveraging someone else's money and their equipment to help build your business. It's key. These are little key principles to bootstrapping. The third step here is let your business bank account grow. Do not pay yourself. I know it's very hard once you're like, oh man, I'm starting to make some money. I can actually start to do my own thing and pay myself out of that. Do not do that. And the key is to make sure that business account is growing. How do you know when's the right point to either pay yourself or take the next step? I'll give a general rule of thumb. You have to have at least 3 months in that bank account of if shit hits the fan money, which means if I'm making zero money, can I survive for 3 months? It's the bare minimum. At that point, then you start to make decisions. So do not touch that money till you have 3 months of shit hits the fan money. That would be my recommendation. And that's an easy set. Like if you're working somewhere else and collecting money from somewhere else to supplement your lifestyle, this is going to be a lot easier to build that 3 months and just let it grow and watch it. Have a relationship with it. You got to have a relationship with money and it's got to start growing and facilitating, and you have to have a connection to it so you know where it's going to keep growing. Then you take those steps. The last step, bootstrapping, market like your life depends on it. Do not stop marketing. You should be out there every day. You should be meeting people every day. You should be putting social media out there every day. We had a video on marketing, so revisit that video as well. But you have to understand that no one's going to do it for you. You have to do it yourself. Once you go down the path of opening your own business, it's all on you. You got to be out there. Even when you have staff, I have staff, and I know that I have to take full ownership of what happens in my business because it's all on me. So you as the business owner have to understand that, and that marketing cannot stop. So let's summarize the keys to bootstrapping. Supplement your income. Go find a job somewhere that you know you can make some money to survive. Find an adjunct service that you can rent space from, where you know now you're cutting the curve of how you're going to get clients through the door. You already have a referral source. It's easier. Start small with the lowest amount of equipment. Build your bank account. Let it build. Build that relationship with your money. Market like you mean it. So if you got any value from this, guys, please share the show. Let us know what you think. We want to kind of keep helping small service-based businesses. We appreciate you watching. Thank you.